Hello and welcome once more to the Monster Sci-Fi Show podcast. I am your host, The Monster, back once again to do another podcast. So, since my last podcast, I have been able to get a new car, which means I can get to work, but now I get to do it in style. So I got a new used car. It's a Toyota Corolla, but it's kind of gold-ish in color. So one of the things that you do is that you name your car, kind of like the Enterprise is a she and things of that nature, or everyone has their loves about their transportation. Han Solo did it with the Falcon, Mal did it with Serenity. Well, my car is called King Ghidorah. I know it's not easy to pronounce, or it fits the car motif, but I have to now look for a King Ghidorah action figure or some kind of statue, little mini bus that I can put in the car. The last car was a silver Suzuki, and it was known as the Silver Surfer, which I had the little action figure in my car, so he would, do his little traveling with me and with his power cosmic and all that fun stuff. But this one is now King Ghidorah. So it's a little weird. I originally was going to call it C-3PO, something lame like that. But whatever the case is, it's a brand new car, and I'm happy with that. All right, so this week, we got a lot to talk about, or at least I have a lot to talk about, and you have a lot to listen to. All right, let's start off with, there was a poster that someone took an Instagram pic of the Thing in the Fantastic Four movie that's coming up in, I believe, in August. Now, it's another reboot, which it wasn't necessary. Whatever the case is, I'm still looking forward to it. And the trailer that was released was kind of downplayed. It wasn't really over the top with action. It was interesting to look at, but we never got to look at what the Thing looked like. So in this version, or at least the pic of the poster that was coming out, and it was done overseas, you can see a better detailed version of what the Thing looks like. And he's a little bit more, I would say, instead of being rounder in places, he's more angular, more chiseled. So he has a little bit more of a rock effect as opposed to someone with bad acne, I guess. It still looks okay. I'm happy with it. It's just a matter of this whole storyline is going to be kind of different from what we grew up with in the comics. As long as I'm entertained, like when I watched the movie Chronicle, then I'm on board. So whatever direction you want to go, just take me with you, tell me a good story, make it a fun movie, then you have my money. That's all I care about. Another big release was a picture of Jesse Eisenberg as the upcoming Lex Luthor in Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. So finally we see Jesse without his curly locks, and it's a stark black and white close-up picture of him, and he looks fine. I can appreciate a bald man because I am bald, but my always thing is like, well, not everyone looks good bald. So far, he looks great. He looks like a very young Lex Luthor. I don't know if he's going to be wearing the suit and tie, how extreme we're going to see the Lex Luthor that we've seen in the comics. This seems to me more like, more like a hands-on type approach, that he's more casual, more laid back, but he's still, I think, going to be more, or just as devious as we would expect Lex Luthor to be. So I would say he would probably tap into Mark Zuckerberg when he played the Social Network movie, because that's exactly what I'm seeing in my head is how he's going to play Lex Luthor, is that type of quiet genius with lots of calculations going on at the same time in the background, plotting his next move, that kind of thing. All right, the last bit is going to be Spielberg finally getting back into a movie that I actually would want to watch in the theaters. Not that his last couple of movies have been great, Lincoln was awesome, Didn't see Warhorse. I just didn't have a desire. But what I wanted to see is something that was akin to what he used to do back in the 80s, where all these great movies, he would have Raiders of the Lost Ark, he had E.T. So he is kind of going back to that genre. And there's a great book that just came out, or at least, let me rephrase that just came out in Loot Crate. So if you ever have a subscription to Loot Crate, last month, that came out in the crate as part of your package, which is an awesome deal. So I have my daughter's book, because she's not going to read it. I will. And yes, I will read it before the damn movie comes out, Gene. And it's a great story from what my podcast co-host was telling me, as well as other people that read the book. They said this is a fantastic, fun read. So I'm really on board to hear that he's doing this. I forgot to mention, because I was planning to discuss this in one of the quick little tidbits, that Ant-Man was being reshot to include certain scenes to make the Paul Rudd's character to be more of a master criminal rather than just a plain con man. So I've been reading a lot of articles in which the effect of Chris Pratt as Peter Quill in the Guardians of the Galaxy, being that he was a thief of that nature, and how everyone loved him because he became a good guy at the end, is why they're gone back to make Ant-Man more of a master criminal, because people are more of accepting someone who can transition back into a hero to that point, rather than just some kind of bumbling character. That's great, but Disney, since you own Marvel and you own Star Wars, please re-release the Star Wars A New Hope, in which you have Han Solo shooting, not ducking, Greedo's shot, and that he shoots first. You can do that. I'm on board with you. You have my money. Please, make it happen. If you're doing this for Ant-Man, you can do it for Star Wars. So, make me happy. Now, the big three things I'm going to be talking about. We have news about the XFiles series coming back in a limited run. Idris Elba is coming to supposedly Star Trek 3. He's in early discussions on that to be the big bad in that movie. And something I want to talk about also is it kind of leads into another. There was a great article that I was reading on Kenneth Branagh on how he would like to come back to do Thor 3, and I think that would be a great move considering how much I despise the second one. But outside of that, Thor, the new comic, which is now a female Thor, has been outselling its comics. So I want to talk about that and other implications of that. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. All right, going back to the X-Files, I was watching At Midnight, in which Chris Hardwick was talking about how he had Gillian Anderson earlier in the year, and how the two were talking about that. And I think she signed a guest book and she put the hashtag XFiles 2015, and eventually it became a thing. And not that he's taking responsibility, but he wants to take credit for it, and fair enough, he can take credit for that. And definitely he wants to be in that series in whatever capacity, so I'm glad for that. Which, okay, I still am a big X-File fan. When I worked at Borders, I had an X-File event. I had the local Channel 7 down here come out to the bookstore that I did an event for, in which we had kind of like this crime scene, and I had people trying to investigate that scene, and they played for prizes and so forth. And then we watched the premiere of one of the, I think maybe the second or third season premiere on television. So we got to be on news, which is kind of cool. And then next year, I'm like, I got to up my game. So I'm like, I'm going to have an alien with its stomach open, kind of like an alien autopsy. And inside will be all these great candies and filled stuff. That's what they would find inside of an alien, candies and stuff, like a piñata. Why not? And it was okay. It came out all right. But the weird part was the alien had like these eyes, And if you know anything about working in a bookstore, sometimes you can find some weird stuff behind the books that people just kind of think it's funny, or they decide, no, I don't need this. Somehow some woman did not need her brassiere, so I wind up using the brassiere, and I used the cups. I cut them out, cut out the straps, painted it black, and used that as eyes, and stuffed it, and it looked fantastic, believe it or not. So I was really happy about that. So again, I was a big X-Files fan. I was willing to go to that extra mile, but I think the minute that David Duchovny left the show and it just kind of meandered, I really did not care. I know for personal reasons he wanted to be closer to his family. I get that. And when he finally came back, I think that's when I started to re-watch it again. And I'm like, Cancer Man is still there. Even to the very last episode, I'm like, this is going on way too long. I really couldn't care. And then Mulder has a baby with Scully. Okay, so somewhere along the way, I missed that idea or that action. So they're coming back for 6 episodes. Great. Please do me a favor. Tell Chris Carter, don't direct, don't write. Why? Because I'm still pissed at the fact that the second X-Files movie that was released into the theaters, I want to believe, was a piece of shit. It was a single episode that you could have saw easily on television, but that was not movie quality. The first one was great because you had to watch one season to see the events unfold into the movie and then back into the TV series. Phenomenal. Great. That's what I want. Whereas this, a limited run, don't make that mistake that Torchwood did in the, not the Children of Men. Oh my God, I'm blanking out. The last run of Torchwood, in which it was 10 episodes, it was on whatever Showtime cable. It was horrendous because you dumbed down what Torchwood was about and you made it too Americanized. So you were trying to get more people on board with more episodes and tailored to a certain taste. It failed. Please don't do that. Give us the X-Files. Don't give us Cancer Man. There are 2 people that I would want to have back, and that's Glenn Morgan and James Wong. And these were, to me, one of the best writers on that show, who I'd also worked on Millennium and one of my other top favorites, Space Above and Beyond, which only lasted for 1 season, but my God, what a great show that was. So, if anything, I will be extremely more happier than, I don't know, a cow in a pasture, whatever that means. I just don't want Chris Carter to be touching this. Basically, it's kind of like, George Lucas, walk away from Star Wars. Gene Roddenberry, please walk away from Star Trek. Because even Roddenberry can be too much, even for Star Trek. So, you have people that can write really well. Please let us have that. That's all I want. All right, so moving on to Idris Elba. So he's going to be, supposedly, he's in the talks right now to play the big bad. And from the reports that I've been seeing, is that the big bad's going to be a Klingon. And, or as my co-host mentioned, a Blingon, who you saw one Klingon with an eye piercing and so forth. And we haven't seen much of a way of Klingons, although if you see the deleted scenes in the first movie, they like to wear helmets, and including the second one. So it's kind of a cheap way of showing the Klingons without having to show much makeup. They have to have helmets in space, which makes no sense other than you trying to save some money. If that was the case, go back to the original Star Trek series and just put dirty mud faces on these people and just say they're Klingons, but they're smooth head. We'll buy it. We did for the longest time in the first couple of seasons, and then we get the Star Trek movie, and then all of a sudden they get ridges. What the hell's up with that? So, whatever the case is, I just think that, one, Idris is fine as an actor. There was a moment in which he complained where he was doing Thor 2. He was like not really thrilled being strung up on wires, and it felt kind of ridiculous. I'm like, dude, that's what you get paid to do. Don't complain. You did great as Heimdall. You were awesome in Pacific Rim. Don't screw it up. Don't piss off your fan base because you need to do serious stuff. Fine, you got your Luther, you got your other stuff. I will give you James Bond, and that's something I really wanted to talk about later on my Page 49 podcast. But in any case, I just think that really this is what the best we're going to do is a Klingon. Fine, we'll do Klingons. Everyone has to know what a Klingon is. But honestly, there's not enough history to come up with someone new. And that leads into, well, you're going to have to play one of the other famous Klingons that we've seen in the past. And honestly, after Benedict Cumberbatch played Khan, we saw how bad that came out. It's hard for me to say, ooh, that's going to be our new bad guy because they played it before. And like, no. So you're going to have a brand new Klingon, play a brand new point of view or whatever the case is going to be. Oh, I just had a thought right now, just right now. Don't let it be Genesis. Please, don't make it the Genesis device storyline because that's fucking ridiculous. Sorry, I don't mean to be cursing. But don't do that. And Simon Pegg is currently writing the script for Star Trek 3. And one of the things that he was quoted on, this is something that I found in Cinema Blend, and he had this quote. He said, obviously, I always treat things with respect, but I have to abide by certain rules and do it by the original series, and not to be too postmodern with it, and not to be too aware of itself. I have to try and take it on the spirit of the show rather than fill it with stuff that people will just go, ooh, that's just from the episode or something or other. It's more than that. So, thank you, Simon, for that. I appreciate that honesty, that point of view, because exactly what I just mentioned a moment ago is that you do need to do something different. Yes, you kind of still need to kind of refer to what the series is about. But obviously, when we saw what was done with Khan, it makes no sense. So, and two, the problem lies is that if you don't have history with the bad guy, you really are struggling to really make it work for one movie. Loki, when he was introduced in Thor, he was played throughout. We saw him bits and pieces here and there. He was the bad guy in Avengers. He is still alive. He's still out there. He's not killed. James Bond had Spectre. That was the bad guy. That was the organization that he had to fight against. So you had that as the background. So James Bond is getting back to its roots in the future with that. And Star Trek kind of needs to kind of set that up so that, okay, this villain was defeated, not necessarily killed. Let him go. Maybe he'll come back 2 or 3 movies from now. Who knows? In any case, I think we're sort of in good hands. I have not seen any of the Fast and Furious movies. I think the last one, which the current director is now going to be doing our movie next year, or plan to for next year. So I'm going to have to brush up on that. All right, so that's enough of Star Trek because I can go on forever on that. The last bit that I was going to talk about, Kenneth Branagh, I liked his feel, his direction, the kind of like historic feeling, the Shakespeareanness of watching Thor versus the Thor Dark World, which was a complete mess in my book. If we get back to those kind of roots and he has those elements back in there, I think Ragnarok would be fantastic. And to me, I felt such a difference in style, and that's because the person who was originally directing it was fired and he got someone else instead. So it was very uneven and it had no drive to it. I couldn't care less about the characters, and I think Kenneth can bring that back to that series. So, leading into that, as I mentioned, the new Thor in the comics is a woman. And the sales to date, year over from last year, has been outselling the original Thor. Now, you could say, well, it's because it's new and it's going to wear off. True, but it may not. And that's the thing we have to kind of consider here. And there are other characters that they did in Marvel, like Captain America is taken over by Sam Wilson, which is black. So you have a black Captain America. You have these characters that are being changed to have more representation, minorities, more female characters in non-traditional roles. I thought that was a good move. It needs to happen. Because, honestly, when I grew up with it, I really did not care too much about who was white, who was black. It never dawned on me. To me, right now, it does affect me. I thought that maybe, what if I saw, Miles Morales, who being half black and half Puerto Rican, me being Puerto Rican, that I could identify with him if I was growing up rather than Peter Parker. Yes, there are certain things that are going to be universal, like his struggles, like Peter Parker did with high school. Everyone goes through that. Everyone knows what it feels like to be a loser. I get that. But back then, it was hard for us to really have much of a voice. We were always treated to this kind of, not white, doing a whitewash, but it was always white. And if we're female, there were secondary characters to the male. Now, Michelle Rodriguez, who I love tremendously, had mentioned, stop stealing all the white people's superheroes. And for us to create our own and to get it out there. Well, that's all fine and dandy if you have the means to do that. And the one that comes to mind that was able to kind of carry over the Milestone comics, DC had bought over Icon and Static Shock, two black characters that crossed over. But honestly, where else are you going to see black characters in comic books other than what has been established? I don't have a problem when things are being changed. For example, Starbuck in Battlestar Galactica was changed from a woman to a man. A man into a woman. And Katie Sackhoff did a phenomenal job. There's nothing wrong with that. I think if we have to reimagine characters, fine, we'll do that. I just think that if we're going to play what Michelle said and put our work out there, we don't have enough creativity out there. And if they are out there, they're in such limited resources to get it out to the masses. Now, Marvel is tapping into that audience and giving them something what they need. Now, if we need to have more black writers, fine. But it's kind of hard at this point to come up with something that's brand new, that's fresh, that's going to be the next Superman. I don't see Captain Latino being the next superhero. I mean, the only thing that I grew up with that was sort of Latinish or Hispanic was El Dorado from the Super Friends and the Saturday morning cartoons. And if you live here in Miami, you know that El Dorado is a furniture store. So, great. So he's some kind of Mexican superhero, and his ability is that he can disappear and he can sell your furniture. Nice. So, I mean, really, that's all you can do. I want to see more. And I just don't buy the idea of, stealing white people's superheroes. I mean, for God's sakes, I would have loved to see Michelle as a Green Lantern. I would even bypass Jon Stewart altogether. Have you be a female Green Lantern. I think that would have been awesome. I would have been 100% behind that. I don't have to see Hal Jordan. I don't. I would love to see Jon Stewart. I would go for a Michelle Rodriguez as a Green Lantern. So, to me, that's my point of view, which I forgot to mention. That's the Monster Sci-Fi Show podcast. Sci-fi from a certain point of view. So, that's all I'm going to say about the subject. Let me know what you think about that, because I think it's important, especially now, going forward with all these superhero movies that are coming on. I looked at the movies like everyone's white. Sure, we get Sam Wilson. That's like one black guy in all the movies. I know. And Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, who was recast from being black. I mean, from being white, so he's now black. Are we saying that Sam Jackson is not doing a great job? He's done a great job. I love Sam Jackson. But, you know, the Nick Fury that I grew up with was in the comics, and then we also had David Hasselhoff in that Fox TV show, which, oddly enough, it wasn't that bad. I really liked it. So if you ever get a chance, find that Nick Fury movie with him. All right, so that does it for me, and I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. Find me on Facebook on the Monster Sci-Fi Show page. Email me if you need to, please. It's MonsterSciFiShow. So that's Monster Sci-Fi Show all together as one word. Also, you can find me Twitter using the Scifi spelling. And that's all I gotta say. So next week, I'm hoping to actually hang out with my friend Gene. We're going to try to see The Kingsman, or at least I'm going to try to see The Kingsman. He already saw it, so we may be doing a review on that, which I think is going to be fun for us to do, which, again, we haven't done for a while. So, on that note, have a great week, guys, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.